And I would now like to welcome Mr. Ian Lim, founder and CEO of Lexasure Financial Group Singapore, to the dais for his very special presentation. Can we have a big round of applause for Mr. Lim?
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm delighted to share insights using DexaFit AI for health and life underwriting. So DexaFit is an investment made by the group, which is based in US, nearing about 100 locations and globally. We have our own Asian Signature Center in Singapore, and if you are in Singapore, you're most welcome to find us in Singapore. Can you do that? Okay? Okay. I spent the last 30 years in insurance and reinsurance across USA and Asia. I founded the Million Holdings, a financial group that has grown to about $500 million US in assets. My life's passion now is protecting lives and extending them through preventive wellness. So I can understand whatever you all do. You do life, you do general. We run those companies. We also run broking business. But in the last 3 years, I started to change a bit of the focus of the group towards health and wellness and preventive care. Okay, since we just had lunch, and let me start with a joke. Okay, this is a joke, all right? A young couple just moved into a neighborhood and wanted to say hi to the new neighbor. And they saw a skinny old man sitting on a rocking chair. They said, "How are you, sir? We are your new neighbors. You look good for your age. What's your secret?" The man replied, "It's easy. I sit around all day, enjoying myself, doing nothing. I smoke my pipe, I drink whiskey all day, and I don't exercise." Very surprised, the young couple asked, "You look good for your age. Can we ask how old are you?" The man said, "I am 26. Okay, right. Okay, right. So, that story gives a bit of context that when we live our life a certain way, we can age quickly, and you can actually look older. And an older man who exercises and takes care of his diet, he can actually be biologically younger than a man chronologically younger. So, if you look at insurance, it's always about predicting longevity and onset of future sickness. You collect premiums now for the future, right? You have a health payout, you have a life claim. So I've always been fascinated by mortality tables. So those in the life industry, they like to read mortality tables. So I also like to read mortality tables. I also want to know how much is my premium now and how long do you think I can live, right? But the question is, how long do we actually live? What is our health span, not just lifespan? So I started to ask the question, can you apply really mortality table to a person? So let's take an example here. Okay, so down here is like 3 individuals going to buy life insurance. They are all at 52 years old. So you have a guy called James, Sarah, and Michael. So James he watches his diet, and he takes statin and Lisiprol. Okay, statin, you know what statin? Statin is for your cholesterol. Lisiprol is more for your blood pressure. And his numbers looks pristine. Second person, Sarah, lost 45 pounds on Ozempic. Do you all know what's Ozempic? Ozempic is a miracle drug for you to lose weight very fast. It's a very big market in the US, and I think it's going to grow. And her BMI dropped from 31 to 24. Looks very good. So if you're underwriting these people, it looks good, right? So the third person is a contractor, no medication, runs a few times a week, and his numbers are borderline. So these are the numbers. So let's say you've got James and Sarah, and if you're giving a 2 million cover, you want to give James and Sarah the Preferred Plus. And then when you look at Michael, Michael gets a Standard Plus. Standard Plus means, it's not so high cover. because his blood pressure is above average, his cholesterol is high, and his fasting blood glucose is also higher. This one follows the American model. So if you look at our industry, we do have blind spots when you do health and life underwriting. Here are your blind spots. Let me tell you what. If you look at modern day medication, they are very powerful. If you take things like blood pressure medication, like amlodipine, lisinopril, you can actually manage your blood pressure. Means, what I'm saying is that you can actually game the system. So if you're underwriting someone, he's taking a lot of, blood pressure medication, he fill in the proposal form, you think he's very healthy, but he's taking medication. Next one, fasting glucose. Fasting glucose, you can take metformin. It will just reduce your blood sugar level, right? The third one, LDL. Yes, you can take cholesterol meds like statins. Like I've said, all these medication can serve a purpose. People do live longer. But if you look at BMI, you can actually reduce BMI using GLP-1. But my question for us in the insurance industry, can we do things at measurements that cannot be gamed? Which is a very interesting question. Because if you're looking at what can't be gamed, what can't be gamed is actually your muscle structure, right? Muscle, to build muscle is not just one day. It can take weeks, it can take months. Going to do the weights. And then if you look at lean muscle mass index, that's building muscles. Cardiorespiratory fitness down here. Cardiorespiratory fitness is seldom used as a yardstick in insurance. We call that VO2 max. One interesting thing about cardiorespiratory fitness is that if a person has a high VO2 max compared to a low person, the lower person with a low VO2 max will have 5 times more mortality. Then if you look at bone density, when a person is on GLP-1, generally they don't exercise, they lose bone and they lose muscle mass. Having poor bone health has a risk of a hip fracture, leading to 20% mortality in the first year. And visceral fats, just now the panel did speak about visceral fats are very dangerous. Visceral fats is one that now people are looking at more seriously. If you look at visceral fats, you can even measure them. If you use the kind of machines that Dr. Amit has in his hospital, he has the same machines. We are a technology provider. He's a hardware guy. He has a lot of machines. Okay, so this is on the VO2 max. So this is, VO2 max is a better predictability than things like smoking, diabetes, and even hypertension. So if you apply DEXA to the 3 individuals down here, so what you see is that the person that we least expected to be healthy is actually the most healthy. So that person's name is Michael, right? Because Sarah has the issue of sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is bone loss and muscle mass loss. And that is very common among women. It happens because women generally don't like to do exercise, except for a few, but generally women don't. Then for James, he has been on blood pressure medication, and he has actually got a body which is structurally not fit. So what I'm saying here is this: you can take great medication, but if you still don't look at having a certain body type, like muscle mass, increasing bone density, reducing visceral fat, your medication is only going to keep you alive, but your body is getting weaker and weaker, right? So you can actually have bigger health or life insurance problems, not just for insurance, but also for an individual. So this problem is that if you look at phenotypes like James, Sarah, and Michael, you start to realize that you got to get things, assessments that cannot be gamed. And this is really a big game changer, Because now when we are underwriting at a person's age at your chronological age. You are not looking at your biological age. Your biological age can be higher than your chronological age. And this is where our technology comes in. And if you are looking at muscle mass, if you have poor muscle mass, it's a high risk of sarcopenia. If you have no muscle mass, you have also no bone health. So that's also a risk of fractures. So GLP-1 medication is one of the biggest epidemic that you will see in the next, I think, 10 years. In the US alone, GLP-1 medication is very common for women, 40 years old to 60 years old. By the way, if you have looked at American women, they are very big size. So that's the reason why they take GLP-1. But this is going to cause bone health and muscle loss. Big problems in future. Bone fracture is 20% mortality. So our DEXA Fit platform basically integrates, right, 3 things. 1, we do VO2 max, resting metabolic rate, and a DEXA scan. A DEXA scan looks like this one. It looks like a photocopier. This is how it looks like. So, Dr. Amit, do you have the same machine in your hospital? Okay, I think tomorrow they will come with me to see you already. Okay, so when you do this DEXA, now DEXA is always used for bone predominantly. Usually the orthopedic section will want to do it because just say if a person has osteoporosis, osteopenia, you want to manage that. Or if there's a bone fracture, they want to see how fast your bone is actually healing. We do another one which is the VO2 max. So the VO2 max basically is a 10 to 15 minute test. The DEXA is only a 7 minutes test, only 7 minutes. So you can actually get, basically, from here, you can get structural health and structural resilience for health, and you get cardiometabolic fitness, which are very, very strong predictors of longevity. So why is this problem so big? This problem is so big that if you don't get it right, a person with lower volatility VO2 max will have 5 times higher risk of dying earlier than a person with higher VO2 max. And if you look at the population, 20 to 40% have what we call a syndrome called thin on the outside but fat on the inside. Have you heard of that? Yeah, so what it means is that there's a lot of visceral fats, there's a lot of subcutaneous fat, adipose tissues, which are fats, but it's going to be unhealthy for them. But their blood pressure, their glucose level, their cholesterol, their BMI may look great. You see the point? And in the US, even at this moment, 30 million Americans do take GLP-1. If you look at the numbers globally, that's 60 million. It's a huge industry. But because of this problem, there is actually a mispricing of about up to $8 billion in terms of mispricing. The US pays about 85 billion of claims a year, and you could have a 10% mismatch. That means you're not collecting enough premiums. So the current paradox that we are in is that, yes, on the one hand, medicine is keeping us to live longer, but are we more healthy, right? And if you look at chronic diseases, chronic diseases are getting more complex. They are getting more complex because when you're dealing with obesity, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia, cardiovascular risk, they all come together. All of them come together. So it's almost like you get a lucky draw, you get all 5 at the same time. So don't you think this is actually a very complex situation for a person? But we are here to help the person, right? And the insurance companies must also know that they are actually inordinate amount of risk that you're taking. So if you look at DEXA-Fit, what we have done is that to take data from the DEXA machine, we build models, we look at what's the biological age, we look at what's the cardiorespiratory fitness, we also build what we call structural resilience. And this is applicable for men and women, not just men only, men or women, okay? So if you want to maybe look at my DEXA, basically we are more like a diagnostic business, then after it gets into an app. so that you get longitudinal data. Longitudinal data means that if you scan one time, it goes here. You scan another time, it goes here. So that you can track. And it's very good that, when you have support, medical support, that's where you want to look at health. So if you look at insurance, we always focus on chronological age. But my question is, look at biological age. If you have good data, good science to support biological age, look at biological age to start. Because an older person who is very fit can be biologically younger than a young man who is unfit. Then he will be chronologically, although chronologically younger, but he will be biologically older. So if you look at DexaFit, how we have been pricing this is that we do come up with a score. So let's say you already have a certain price. If a person within this 360, this is the 360 score that we have. If a person is between a score of 270 to 360, you can actually give them a reduction. But a person who between 90 to 180, you got to start loading up. But if a person is between 0 to 90, perhaps you may not want to give them a comprehensive cover. You will save a lot of money. So, I just want to conclude that thin on the outside, fat on the inside is going to be a big problem, and 20 to 40% suffer from that. You can't pick this up from blood work. You only can do a DEXA scan to see it, and that's the only technology now you can do it. Yes, you have other things in the gym, like they call the in-body, but that's not the gold standard. If you want to get gold standard, then it's the DEXA scan. Then it's GLP-1, that creates a distortion, and the other one is that you want to build true physiological resilience with cardiometabolic health included in your underwriting. Oh, my express here, sorry. So insurance companies, right, you got to be like not just giving insurance, you got to be a health partner, right? You got to educate, and of course you're pricing risks, but you want to make this as profitable as possible. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, yes, I have actually finished the presentation, but I just want to share a few things, right? In the whole history of mankind for the last, let's say, 6,000 years, since World War II, when they started to have the baby boomers, baby boomers born after 1945, the world has changed. We are no longer undernourished. We are overnourished, right? We are not like our grandparents' time. We have moved away from what we call sudden death to slow death, right? In the past, there could be war, there could be hunger, pestilence. Medical science has improved. Medicine 1.0 is like hospitals, outpatient clinics, you got vaccines, you got medications for bacteria, for viruses. It will keep you alive. Medicine 2.0 is where chronic medication comes in. These are driven by the big pharmacology. It still keeps you alive, but it's not making you healthier. And it creates a big volatility in the person's own health, in terms of longevity, in the insurance company's own books, that you could be mispricing something. Because if you're talking about life, it's a very long policy, right? If you're talking about health, you don't want to misprice something that could be something hidden, hidden risk. So I have actually started to look at what I call preventive care. So that's what I call medicine 3.0. So next year, if you invite me here again, I will talk to you about medicine 3.0. Okay, Mr. Raju? Brother, okay? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Mr. Ian Lim.